Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Will Charlton. Welcome to another edition of Noteworthy in the NCAA, a weekly podcast here from the ETV network on Playback. And make sure to stay tuned for later on the show for an update on Playback. But welcome into another episode where we got a lot to talk about. We'll talk about some college football playoff stuff, look at the brand new AP poll for men's basketball, go over some teams who got left out and why they got left out, and then talk about some meaningful bowl games that could be coming in the that could mean, well, I guess they won't really mean a lot, but some meaningful bowl games that that are good matchups between teams who just got left out and were just on the outside looking into the playoff field. But yeah, first let's start off with the 12-team playoff. And I will say that I think the committee got the bracket right. So what the deal was, the last team in was Miami, and the last two teams that were fighting for that one spot was Miami and Notre Dame. Those two teams played each other in week one with Miami winning 27-24. So obviously, even though Notre Dame, if you look at the numbers, had the better resume, the head-to-head did matter. So if Notre Dame got put in instead of Miami, why even play the games, right? Why even play the games? I also think that just based off the fact the ACC champion was Duke, there was a little bit added pressure to add a team from the ACC into the field. And Miami's a good team. They definitely have a shot to play with Texas A&M. But just looking at kind of the deal here between Texas or Miami and Notre Dame definitely had the two better losses, Miami and then Miami on the road and the Texas A&M at home. But Miami, like I just said, beat Notre Dame head-to-head. And even though Miami had the two tough losses at home to Louisville, which is not a good loss, and then on the road at SMU, which isn't a great loss, but it's not a terrible loss, the head-to-head ultimately came into play, even though Notre Dame technically had the better resume. But Miami had the better overall win, which is Notre Dame at home, as opposed to Notre Dame's best wins of USC at home, who is going to be playing in the – I'm trying to remember what bowl USC is in, but I think it's the Alma Bowl. I think it's the Alma Bowl. But yeah, no, USC is Notre Dame's best win, and then I guess you can probably throw Pittsburgh in there as well. Pittsburgh on the road, which I don't know, Pittsburgh's not really anything to write home about that much, but yeah, no, Notre Dame is on the outside looking in, and because of that, they decided they're not going to play in a bowl game. Wah. I mean, come on, man, really? Like, you guys are not only are you guys too good for a conference, which actually hurts them in this sense, you're too good for a bowl game now? What? So you feel you're so hurt. You're so emotionally hurt that you didn't make the 12-team field that you're not going to play in a bowl game now. I mean, come on. Really? I mean, that is just such a bad look. It's a horrible look for Notre Dame. Awful look. Like, I don't get how you can sit here and be so pissed off that you didn't make the playoff. Felt like you got robbed of not being in, and now you're gonna whine about it and not play in a bowl game. Go out and play one more game. And try to stick it to the committee that you should have been in. I'll use an example, for instance. So Florida State just missed out in the playoff a couple years ago when they went undefeated. They didn't decline their invitation to the Orange Bowl. They still played Georgia. They got killed. They still played a bowl game, though. I think Notre Dame is just being a big crybaby right now. And when you really think about it, again, it just goes back to the fact that being in a conference, or not being in a conference in this sense, hurt them because they didn't have a chance to play a conference championship game. They didn't have a chance to really stack up wins on their resume, which would have boosted them into the playoff. And Notre Dame just suffered tremendously because of that. And also, I personally thought Alabama was going to be kind of the weird factor in this because of how bad they lost to Georgia on Saturday, 28-7. I thought Notre Dame was going to slide into that 9 spot where Alabama was, and then it would come down to Alabama and Miami, which in that case, I think Alabama would have made it over Miami. But since this is how the committee looked at the field, since this is how they kind of decided that they weren't going to punish Alabama for playing in the conference championship. So Alabama was solidified as the 9 seed if they lost. If they won, they would have jumped up a little bit. But if they lost, they weren't going to go any below 9. So the committee made that perfectly clear, and it came down to Miami, Notre Dame, and ultimately the head-to-head mattered. So, and this is why you play the games. Because guess what? Notre Dame wins that game. They finish 11-1, and they are at worst the 6 seed. At worst. Probably the 5. Probably the 5 seed. So Notre Dame definitely is whining about this a lot. And I personally think it's funny because I've never been a huge Notre Dame guy. In fact, I've kind of disliked them, but always kind of have. So it's kind of funny to, stick it to these guys, say like, hey, maybe you should be in a conference. Maybe you should be in a conference because that would help you. You win a conference championship game. You win the ACC, for instance. If you play in the ACC, guess what? You're in the field. It doesn't matter. You're in the field. Like it's a really weird situation because Duke was a 5-loss team playing in a conference championship, which should never have happened. Should never have happened. Like there's got to be some sort of rule that like I get that Duke went 6-2 in the regular season, the ACC, but they were 7-5. They went 1-3 in non-conference. Like there's got to be some sort of stipulation to not allow a 7-5 team in a power conference to play in a power conference championship game. It just shouldn't happen. The ACC was very weak this year. Miami is definitely the best team in that conference, but they didn't even get a chance. They went 6-2 in the conference as well. Like they should have been playing Virginia in that game. They should have been. Now, Grant, I know that Duke had the better strength of record or strength of schedule in the ACC or whatever it is, but it has to go to head-to-head record at some point, right? Like it has to go to head-to-head record or overall record, I mean. So yeah, it's the whole common opponents clause that makes things just ridiculous. Duke should not have been allowed to play in that game. Like I get they beat Virginia. I picked them to win, or I picked them to cover. And I said I wouldn't be surprised if they won in Forever Power 5 last week. But yeah, I'm still kind of shocked that they were allowed to play in that game. It's just it's so ridiculous in my opinion that Duke was allowed to play in that game. But anywho, yeah, Notre Dame got the short end of the stick there, and I think because it came down to them, Miami, it was the right decision. So the 4 teams they got to buy, 1 Indiana, which first off, what a season for Indiana. 13-0, they beat Ohio State 13-10 in an absolute slugfest. That game was unreal game. I was quite impressed with Indiana, especially when Mendoza took that huge hit at the start of the game. I think he's probably got the wind knocked out of him or something because he came right back into play later. Indiana is one of the coolest stories in college football. I mean, they have the most FBS losses of all time ever. Like they have the most FBS losses ever of a program. That's insane to say. That's crazy. And now they are number 1 in the country heading into the college football playoff and are probably the leading contender for the national championship because they just beat the second best team in the country. Ohio State didn't get punished for losing that game. Those two just swapped places because Ohio State was 1, Indiana was 2 going into the Big Ten championship. Those two swapped. Indiana is the only team in the country that finished with a perfect undefeated record so far. And they got the 1, Ohio State the 2, Georgia the 3, and then Texas Tech, who I think is a very, very dangerous team when healthy, got the 4. Texas Tech's going to make some noise in this playoff. In fact, they might even beat Indiana in the semifinals. The Texas Tech is the only team in the country that's won all that's won all 12 of their games by 20 points or more. And they just took it to BYU once again. I mean, they just pounded BYU once again. In fact, they beat them worse than they beat them the first time. And that was on a neutral field. So yeah, Texas Tech means business. Watch out for the Red Raiders. I mean, they got 2 of the best linebackers in the country, in Roberts and Rodriguez. The fact they have those 2 guys in that linebacker core is just, it's dangerous. I mean, Texas Tech is going to make some noise in this playoff. I'm telling you, Texas Tech's going to be a real dangerous team to watch out for. And then the matchups are also because of the fact that the ACC champion was Duke, that allowed 2 group of 5 teams to make the field because of their rule that the field has to include 5 conference champions, at least 5 conference champions. And because of that, Tulane and James Madison both got in the field. And look, I'm very happy for those programs. They are not even close to two of the best 12 teams in the country. Let's be honest here. James Madison is going to get the wheels raced off them. If that's the saying, I don't know. They're going to get annihilated by Oregon. James Madison is going to get annihilated by Oregon on the road. They don't stand a chance in that game. Tulane, we already saw Ole Miss beat the brakes off them. I don't see why that wouldn't happen again, because Tulane, again, great seasons for Tulane and James Madison. I won't take that away from them. They've both been great this year. They've won their conference. They deserve to be in the spot they're in because of how they have this lined up with this format. They're not two of the best 12 teams in the country. I'm sorry, they're just not. They're not. If you really want to perfect this playoff, like, I get it. I get the whole idea behind making it, and it's proven that the model is wrong back-to-back years, because Boise State last year was not, like, were they a top 12 team? Maybe. I mean, they played Penn State decent in the quarterfinal, but in no way, shape, or form should Boise State have gotten a bye in the college football playoff. I mean, that was just actually unbelievable that Boise State got a bye in the college football playoff. So back-to-back years, their model has just not worked. It hasn't worked. The 12 best teams have not been in the field the past 2 years. Now, look, if Tulane and James Madison give Ole Miss and Oregon a game, I want to be the most wrong guy out there. I want to see that happen. Until they prove that they will give them a game, this model is incorrect. It's not right. The best 12 teams are not in the field. They're not. So yeah, Tulane goes to Ole Miss. James Madison goes to Oregon. The 8-9 matchup is a rematch in the SEC. Alabama goes to Oklahoma. I think that'll be a fun game. Alabama lost to Oklahoma at home earlier in the season. That was one of the wins that kind of propelled Oklahoma to get in that top 8 so they could host a first-round game. So definitely think that's the right call there, but that's going to be a fun first-round matchup. And then the 7-10 game is Miami at Texas A&M. That's going to be a fun one as well. Texas A&M definitely deserves to host a game after the season they had. I know they've slipped up against Texas in the Lone Star Showdown, but I'm definitely excited for those first couple round matchups. In terms of who I have advancing on, I'm going to go with Texas A&M to beat Miami. I'm going to go Alabama to get revenge on Oklahoma, and obviously I'm picking Oregon and Tulane or Ole Miss to roll past James Madison and Tulane. In the quarterfinals, I'm going to have Indiana beating Alabama. I'm going to have Texas Tech beating Oregon. I'm going to have, let's see, because that A&M and Ohio State match will be interesting. But I'm going to have Ohio State beating A&M, and then in the what's the other game I'm missing here? It would be Ole Miss and Georgia in another rematch game. So Ole Miss is gonna have 2 rematch games in this playoff. Georgia barely squeaked past Ole Miss in the between the hedges in Athens earlier this year. That was a great game. So I'm gonna go. That's a tough one. I could definitely see Ole Miss winning that game, but I think that's where not having Lane Kiffin is going to come back to hurt them. So I'm going to go Georgia to beat Ole Miss in that game. And then in the semifinals, Texas Tech, Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia. Whew, man, this is where things get interesting. I'm going to take. I could see Texas Tech beating Indiana, man. I really can. I mean, a healthy Texas Tech is just a different animal. And until proven otherwise, like I know Indiana is the best team in the country, and that they prove that they are. But man, Texas Tech healthy is a different animal. As of right now, I'm gonna say Indiana squeaks by Texas Tech, and then I'm gonna say Georgia beats Ohio State, and then I'm gonna have Indiana beating Georgia for the national championship. I think Indiana is the best team in the country, and I think they've proven that until they can be beat, it's going to be hard to stop them. So I got Indiana over Georgia right now to win the national championship. But some bowl games that are going to be fun to keep an eye on. Illinois plays Tennessee in the Music City Bowl. Let's see what some other ones are. Texas plays Michigan in the Citrus Bowl. That's going to be a fun one. Iowa plays Vanderbilt in the ReliaQuest Bowl. And let's see what the other ones are. Georgia Tech, BYU in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. That's going to be fun. Yeah, there are a handful of good bowl games to keep an eye on here. Let's see, what are some other ones, other fun ones to keep an eye on here. Kind of scrolling through. Penn State, Clemson in the Pinstripe Bowl. That's kind of a fun one. You would have thought those two teams would meet in the playoff at some point early on in the season. And honestly, I probably predicted that they would meet in the playoff just based off the fact that I had Clemson win the ACC and Penn State to win the Big 12. Those two picks were terrible. Texas Tech to win the Big 12 was a great pick. Virginia, Missouri in the Gator Bowl. LSU against Houston in the Texas Bowl. That's kind of fun. USC and TCU in the Alamo Bowl. USC kind of got the short end of the stick with that matchup. Arizona State against conference champion Duke in the Sun Bowl, which that's about right for an 8-5 team. And yeah, those are pretty much the bowl games to watch out for. But before we head off for the podcast today, let's take a look at the new men's basketball AP poll, which came out today, as we do every week. So I'll share my screen with you guys and we can go over this here. Oh, that's not it. There it is. So yeah, Arizona's the new number 1. Michigan's the new number 2. Purdue. First off, what happened to Purdue? I mean, Purdue lost to Iowa State 81-53 at home. Shocking loss for the Boilermakers at home. Purdue goes from number 1 to number 6 after the loss. Iowa State, man. I think that top 5 you're seeing right there, those are the teams that you're probably going to see come the end of the season, contending for the national championship. Purdue, I feel like they will get back up there. Gonzaga will be up there as well. Michigan State's looking really good too. BYU, I think they're just going to be too inexperienced to really make a run for the title. But I think those 8 teams I mentioned, Arizona, Michigan, Duke, Iowa State, UConn, Purdue, Gonzaga, and Michigan State, I think those 8 teams are probably going to be the ones that are still alive in the Elite Eight conversation. I think those are going to be the teams to really watch out for come the rest of the year. But yeah, Michigan's looked unreal lately. I mean, they've won their last 5 games by an average of 30-something points. They just beat Rutgers by 40 in the Big Ten opener this past weekend. And Michigan's rolling. Arizona's looking fantastic with Koa Pete, that amazing freshman. Duke just got a huge win in East Lansing, 66-60 on Saturday. Iowa State, like I mentioned, took down Purdue. UConn's only loss so far is Arizona at home. Gonzaga's looked fantastic. They just beat the brakes off Kentucky and Nashville this past weat. Louisville slipped up against Arkansas in the SEC ACC Challenge last week, but then beat Indiana in Indianapolis this weekend. Alabama's ranked ahead of Illinois, which I think is right just because Alabama beat Illinois head-to-head. Illinois beat Tennessee, though, in Nashville on Saturday. Big win for the Illini to move up to 13, which they replaced Tennessee there. North Carolina has been looking pretty good lately. They just got a win over Georgetown yesterday at home. And yeah, how about Nebraska? Undefeated Nebraska makes the field at 23. Good for the Huskers. Virginia's looking kind of sneaky so far, and UCLA's back in the field as well. So there's your new top 25 for college basketball, and that's going to do it for Noteworthy in the NCAA this week. Thank you for tuning in. This is actually the last time this show will be on Playback. Playback is going away as a platform this coming Friday, so Noteworthy in the NCAA will still be available. We're still going to do this show, but it will just not be on Playback anymore. So make sure to tune in on YouTube, Kick, Twitch, wherever it may be that we're going to be streaming this podcast on. But until then, we'll see you next Monday. I'm Will Charlton. Thanks for tuning in.